Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host tonight, and this is how the stop taking our children. It's referencing to the CPS, which is the Child Protection um, part of social service. Child Protection Service is the arm that's responsible for protecting our children and do family reunification. So tonight I'm going to talk to about fighting CPS and stop taking our children. And hopefully all that you're listening in. Um, that sounds great. My show is live broadcast right now. It's found on Facebook and a broadcast on YouTube, and it's produced uh, by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm. The lead attorney, Vincent W. Davis, is a family law attorney, and he has years of experience on fighting CPS. He's also a trial attorney, and furthermore, he's works out of Southern California, but he'll go Northern California or all the 50 states. His fee for his services depended on the location and complexity of the case. But he does offer something really nice is a 30-minute up to 1 hour strategy um, conference with him um, where he'll talk about your CPS case and tell you what you can do and not do, and whether you want to retain or not. You'll get to know him when you meet with him. The number, by the way, is 888-888-6582. That is the number of my office. Make sure you say Bob Pace sent you the talk and schedule a time with Vincent Davis. So please take advantage of that, because without an attorney, you're like trying to do open heart massage without a doctor, open heart surgery without a doctor. Um, as I was saying, I'm on daily, 7 days a week, 10 in the morning, 7 o'clock at night. Tonight being an exception, I'm on at 8 o'clock. But I'm here for a good hour, and I'm here to talk about CPS matters, answer your questions. One way you could ask me a question on this show is by filling in a comment. There's a comment area that you can write in, and you can go ahead and um, talk freely about what your question is. Okay. Another way, if you want to talk on the show, you can call in to my phone. It's 626-698-0990. It'll be live for the next hour, and that number you can call in, and I'll put you on the show and try to help you best I can. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I have 9 years of experience with CPS matters, and I've talked to over hundreds of people from across the country. My family was involved in 2015, and we had 3 years of fighting to get our family back together. But after that, there's still the aftermath of the disaster that partaken, because it really is a horrendous, scary thing when CPS gets involved. Now, a third way, if you want to, is a call in the same number you call Mr. Davis. It's 888-888-6582, and tell them you want to be a guest speaker. We love to have people talk. We have people from all walks of life, all matters, whether they have a husband, a wife, or partners, or it's a single mom or a single dad raising the kids or something. We all have one thing in common. We want our children back. We want our families back together. And CPS should be an agency that helps you do that. They are by law to, and I'm sorry for the background noise, but this is live out of my home, so uh, this is family time here. And um, the CPS by law is supposed to protect our children. Anytime they get allegations, and what allegations are is a simple phone call. Anybody can call in and say something's happening to a child. I'm afraid, though, lately it seems like 99% of the time uh, they are allegations are not true. What I mean by that is that you can call in, a layperson, a professional person must call in, or it could be other people too that could call in. Um, the um, time that they call in is, they're taking the message down, and right away you're guilty. One thing you'll find out with allegations in CPS is that you're guilty until you're proven innocent. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. So, with that being said, um, the thing is that you're going to have to deal with that. That's a horrible thing to be guilty. Anything else in court of law or legal matters, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. But in family court, dependency court involving children, you're guilty. So if someone calls in like the other day, uh, a father was telling me he's in North Carolina, and he had a fiance that she had children with this guy that she divorced. He was calling in trying to say allegations that the children in his care were eating carpet, like billy goats. Well, they weren't, and this is how far fetched the allegations go. They do something called alienation. Now, alienation is a real key word. Not only is there parent alienation, there's CPS alienation, there is family alienation, there's friends alienation. Alienation is nothing more than trying to put one person against the other person. So in a custody battle, they're going through a divorce, they're going to make allegations that aren't true to hurt you, to delay the process, or unnecessarily break apart your family. And the way that CPS is, they're money hungry. They are money hungry. This is what I remember. They are really, really hungry for money. And with that being said, um, they make money off our children. The longer they keep them in the service, the longer it is. Also, you're going to find they're not very transparent. They use deceitful methods, and they also will use trickery. And they needless use the local police to do their dirty work, and the police are duped. We all are duped. And that's something I should point out right off the bat. Social services is a government agency. They're responsible for giving families in need that need food, medical, a job, a place to, housing, things like that. But as you can see, it isn't working. We have so many homeless people out there in this United States, and you'll see them everywhere. They sleep on the streets and stuff. Social service isn't doing their job, and one of the reasons why, and it's pretty obvious, we have an influx of several million people. What happened is that we have open borders now. We used to have closed borders, a wall being built, and it used to be that when you came into the United States, you had to go through a process. And I wasn't born, but when we first started to have immigration to the North America, it was first done by the Native American Indians who came via Alaska. They came down and settled in Canada, settled in North America, later became the United States. So those are the first immigrants that came here. The next group of immigrants, and they didn't stay long, were the Vikings, and they came. And then the Europeans came. And that's where most of the United States was settled, and Europeans, were really mercilessly killed off the American Indians who were here first, and the Indians have suffered greatly over all these years. But like everything else, they have issues there too. And one thing is nice to have an attorney, just like having a doctor. They know how to navigate around child protection service. They'll know how to get your kids back. They know what forms to file. They know the laws, what they can do or not do. One of the things that people didn't realize, and I was one of them, is that they can't enter your home if you don't give them permission to do so. The only way someone can come into your home, a police or anybody, they have to have a court warrant that says expressly the name of the individual they're investigating and what they're wanting to look for. They have to have the legal documentation to get into your yard, into your house, and everything. Because when you let them in, they're going to see things that maybe you don't want them to see, or they're going to take things the wrong way. In my case, they saw my parents' belongings, and it looked very cluttered. And they thought it was neglected with the children. There was boxes stacked and so forth. And I was going through a perfect storm. What I mean by that is that I lost my job in 2010, and I had a great job, had a beautiful home. My whole lifestyle was based on my job, and I had three younger children. The older children have grown up and gone elsewhere and done really good in their lives. Um, the younger ones, the ones that were CPS, tore apart my family, lost my home, and really did nothing to help out my wife, myself, or my kids. They really have hurt our kids. In fact, one of the kids was brainwashed and alienated from their parents, and it breaks our heart that she was convinced that divorcing her parents and living with strangers was better than living with mom and dad. Luckily, our two other children recognized how important mom and dad were, and they are living with us. And so they're trying to get their lives going on. And my youngest one is still with us, and he is doing quite well in school and academic and sports. But I know that Child Protective Services has harmed him, as well as my older son. And of course, our daughter is lost out there, and I don't think she's um, uh, together herself. I really worry about our daughter. She's 21 now. She was 12 at the time they stole her. And the reason why I'm using steel and so forth is Child Protection Services is the only agency that legally steals children, that can legally steal it. They will make up stories that are so believable you think it is. I did not know about they cannot enter your home. And my problem was I didn't have an attorney. The very first thing that you should do, if you ever get any phone calls or a letter or if somebody drops by, don't answer the door if someone drops by. You don't have to answer them, and you don't have to let them in, because they will take your children if you let them in. And so if you don't let them in, they can't take your children. They have to have a court order to take your children. They have to have a court order to take them out of school. And one thing you need to do is you need to call attorney, and you say, hey, look, I just been approached by, I think, a social worker. I don't know what it's about. And then they'll tell you what to do and what you can't do. I thought I could trust them. I thought they were there to help you. I was going through hard times when I lost my job, and then my parents were slowly dying, and I had all their belongings because I was trying to liquidate their home and take care of my mother and dad. And so I had that going on. So I had my parents' belongings because I couldn't afford to put them in storage. My yard is starting to get out of hand because I couldn't afford hiring some landscapers to do some tree trimming and stuff. In the past, I had people come here to help me take care of the swimming pool and the yard and so forth. But it really got out of hand now, and so I didn't have that. So the only thing that they found, and this is how crazy they are, is that they had about 10 people in front of my house when a detective tricked me in coming home. When he tricked me in coming home, it was crazy. There was um, 5 firemen, uh, two code enforcement, 3 social workers, and 2 uniformed police, and then the detective, all in their combat gear, all in their how can you say, warfare gear. They looked like SWAT. It wasn't, the social workers were dressed kind of casual. The firemen were dressed in their firemen clothes, but they also had their yellow jackets on, and the house wasn't on fire. I don't know why they had their fire helmets on, and then the 2 uniformed policemen were dressed properly, and the detective had some civil clothes on, but the code enforcement, I guess, had little rough overalls and combat boots, and also the firemen and the policemen had combat boots. What I mean by that is that we have a policy in our home that you take your shoes off before entering. They didn't care. And I let them in the house by a big mistake, and so they went tromping through the house, and we had a white chair in the master bedroom that was made out of bamboo, and they broke it. They stand on it, and they were commenting to each other like, wow, this is a beautiful home. Look at the nice swimming pool. Look at this nice bedroom. Look at this. Look at the kids' rooms. There was nothing wrong with the kids' rooms. They were like their own castle. Our kids had their own castle. They took good care of it. They're really, really good. And my wife was very responsible for the kids. She took care of the kids, and we were very involved with them in school. and sports and scouting and so forth. So, they were looking for something, as they always seem to do. They look for the worst case. They're looking for drugs, and I never did any drugs, but I was tested for a year, once a week. That's stupid. I was never. I mean, it was stupid. They would test you. I never did drugs. I have no drug, and it wasn't on there. But they were determined to try the hassle and break you. They wanted to break you, and at first, I tried to fight them. I tried to fight their Taj Mahal, the building that they use the money off of kids to make it. And then those kids, I mean, those Taj Mahal building, I went and tried to talk to the top dog. We had meetings and supervisors. They went in one ear, went out the other. They could care less. And I started finding out that I was in a creepy group of professional people that didn't want to do family reunification. And to top things off, the dependency court, the judge in our dependency court was a judge that had a background in property damages and in car accidents. He had no experience in family unification of children. And then they're all pals of wells in the courtroom. You're going to find out that you get a public defender, by the way, if you don't hire your own attorney, and the public defender is going to be useless. He usually has 20 cases. He won't give the time of day. He won't fight for you. And he'll try to do a little bit, but he wheels and deals because he wants to move on to the next case, the next case. They have a 20 case load. And so that is tough. That's tough because you're finding out that you would think this government agency was professional. And, I've seen that the social workers aren't the same they used to be. It used to be back in about 2010, experienced social workers, workers that had been in the office for 30 years. They were paid highly, and they were very experienced and so forth. But the state of California was going bankrupt, like Detroit, Michigan, about that time. Again, that was a ripple effect from the banks in 2007 and 8, going bellied up with predatory loans. And I was one of those people. I had a predatory loan. I didn't know it, but they had jacked up my income, so I'd qualify for a bigger home. Then I'm fighting with that here. Hold on one second. I want to pause my microphone for a second right here. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, you guys. I had to mute my mic to get some quiet here. So as I talk on, if any of you have questions or any of you want to talk on the show, please call in 626-698-0990. That's my number, and I'll put you live on the air. Also, if you want to type a question, make sure you type your name. It can be your first name or some type of alias name is fine, but it's got to be a decent name to type in. Nothing funny, nothing that isn't respectful. Also, you need to put the state you're calling from, whether it's from California or from Arizona or anywhere. Because I've talked to people. I've talked to the Rosebud Reservation at the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota, which is the Lakota Sioux tribe reservation. It's one of the many of them because I am part Lakota and proud to be it. And but I'm not registered. I've not been able to. I know who my great grandmother is, a full-blood Lakota Sioux, but I don't know her Indian name. And I've gone there and tried to find it. But since I'm talking about Native American Indians, if any of you are Native American Indians or could be registered as one, it's important you know this. In 1979, there was the Indian Child Welfare Act. It's called ICWA. Now, this ICWA means that if CPS encounters Native American children, and a lot of it was with Alaskans, Indian children, and California Indian children, but it's throughout the United States. What that means is CPS must contact the tribe. So if you are an Indian background, tell them you are, or if you can get them registered, and they will contact the tribe and see if they can get you registered. If that being said, they will not take you. The Indian tribe will help you out with your matter, and they're a lot more easy to work with than it is CPS. CPS is not your friend. They are not there, and they'll use deception, so don't trust them. Don't trust them at all. There's nothing they say. They lie, they're deceitful. I've heard some people say they've even doctored up documents are not true and say they've received these documents. They do drug testing, which are not capable. They also are mental health experts. I had one case the other day that she said the judge and the social workers said that her son had mental health problems and he needed to be treated. And I say to myself, well, what about your attorney? You know, only a doctor can do that kind of thing, a professional doctor. And, uh, you know, and she says, you're right, because like everything like us, and for all that you're listening there, it is hard, but it is hard to um, go through this system and where they're on top of you and everything on that. Um, Now, I did talk about alienation, and that's a real important um, uh, word to know about alienation. Now, you know, when parents are being separated, it's a very difficult time for their children. It's going to involve a custody of your children, and the final custody orders are always complicated by situations for the entire family and children because they react in so many different ways, either through divorce or separation. And then they are supposed to be where both parents should concentrate on the children and work out the children's best interests. But that doesn't seem to be happening. In my case, the alienation was my wife's family members. They were determined to break us apart. And it started when I first met my wife and we got married. They didn't show up to the wedding. They could care less about us with our children. And they weren't as helpful. They went along with it, they tolerated it, but they really wanted their daughter to come home or manipulate their daughter. But you know, it's like she had uh, she had two times in her life. Well, she's had several times in her life where she has been um, abused and neglected and molested and everything else. But she had two children. One she gave for adoption, later came into her life when he was age 20, and then another child that she was raising as a single parent when I met her. And um, it is hard when someone is trying to alienate you. And so they would say stories like when I first met my wife, I went back to visit them. I'll never forget how much her dad says, like he was threatening me about this and threatening me about that. And I just was respectful for him. Said, okay, I'm going to take good care of your daughter. I'll be there to take care of your daughter. But you know, they were making up stories so bad, like we weren't paying the electricity bill, we weren't feeding our kids, we weren't taking the kids to school, we weren't giving them baths. We It was a list a mile long. They were saying that my wife does not know how to take children. She's a messy housekeeper, and it's so sad because her mom didn't come to her defense. I mean, it was so bad that my wife learned a lot through this because she found out some things that surfaced the time that she wasn't protected by her older sister or mom. She went to a concert at 15 and got raped. It's terrible. It's a terrible. Can you imagine the experience of, you know, a young girl at 15 going to a concert with 30 or 50,000 people there, listening to a group, and you don't know. You're not born with everything. You're not knowledgeable. It's very naive life they live in. Her mom, dad could care less. They weren't concerned at all. And she had her older sister, who is a social worker, who knew a lot, who knew what to do. She was a big part of our problem. She was trying to undermine our family. She was trying to break back our family. Her other sister wanted to adopt our daughter. They wanted to adopt our daughter. Her mom and dad wanted her firstborn daughter to be adopted. She would fly her back, and like with all parents, I want them to know their grandparents. So we would send them home to go visit their grandparents. But then she was sat there and brainwashed and thinking something so bad. And then her other sister, she went to go live with her sister for a year and came back that she was doing drugs because in Colorado, they're very open about drugs. And her sister didn't have any supervision. Here she is. She's a minor. She wasn't 18 when she was living with my wife's sister, and she was allowed to go off and do drugs and hang out with the wrong group. When she came back, it was terrible. She had just really changed a lot, and she had swore off that she wouldn't do drugs, and so there's no protection. So we learned a terrible thing. So with alienation, it's very important, you as parents, that um, you don't try to alienate each other with your kids, and you got to be careful. But CPS will try to alienate your kids. For instance, our kids were in a group home, and they were taught not to love each other. I mean, not to hold their hands or hug you, but to put their hands to the side, and not to show an expression of love to their parents. Now, it was being run by Boys Town, and Boys Town is the first time they were doing something like that, the group home, but they're used to having no mothers and fathers in the kid's life. What do you do when you have a mother and father that loves their kids, will do anything, take any parenting classes? My wife and I were taking so many parent classes so fast. We were doing anything. We did things that they weren't even asking us to do. We did it. And so it just got worse and worse. As time went on, it got worse. And I was being hammered because I didn't have a job. And the lifestyle that I had to go back to a Spartan lifestyle. I couldn't afford the Disneyland passes. The Disneyland passes are now $2,500 a person. A family of five, that's pretty expensive, or a family of six. So that can be really expensive. So that being said, and I didn't have a place to put my parents' stuff in storage, and they weren't sitting there saying, "Hey, look, we got a storage place. We'll pay a couple months in the storage place till you get a job," or "Hey, look, we'll help you out with some food stamps," or "We'll help you out with some food or medical benefits." I eventually did get medical and food stamps, but they took all that away when the cost of living is going so skyrocket, and I was using my Social Security. See, all this is happening. I'm an elder person, and they're not taking care of elder people anymore there. I am sorry that I had to go, I mean, my job that I lost was not my fault of my own. It was something that was done by the state, that I had all these contract work and construction, and the governor gave me IOUs because he wanted to use the public funds to finance the state of California. So with that being said, I lost my job not through fault of my own. I was 60 at the time. I was 65 when CPS got involved, and they did not treat me with respect. They treated you really bad. They thought you were druggies. They thought you were a criminal, and they're making you do everything out there. They treat no difference. And we'd be out in the hallways wanting to see what's taking place in courts. Guess what? The dependency courts where I was, they don't allow you in the court during the whole proceeding. They allow you to come in when they want you to come in, and all the wheels and deals that they made with the judge or the other attorneys, you don't get to see them. You don't know how your public defenders, doing anything. And I talked to the public defenders. They are overloaded. They're 20 people that that they're trying to work with, and it's like a cattle. They're moving people in and out of that courtroom so fast, stay in the hallways, and people from all walks of life. And I see a lot of the immigrants are in there because maybe their values are different with their kids or something like that. This influx, I think, the open border has really created a big problem with social services. And also, there's no watchdog with CPS. There's no one monitoring the use of the money or how it gets used and so forth. One time, they were giving money to a foster care for taking care of my son, 100 pairs of socks. Well, what is he going to do with 100 pairs of socks? I mean, this is ridiculous. They said they had to use the money, or otherwise they had to return it. So there's a lot of abuse with the money. There's a lot of abuse, a lot of cases. I've heard people from different parts of the country, a couple from Tennessee, from Illinois, North Carolina, from Florida, Texas. And it's all the same thing. They may call it Department of Child Services, DCS, instead of CPS, or they may call it something else, but it all boils down to the same thing. Social services is responsible for the care of your children, the well-being of your children. And yes, there are horror stories out there. There are horror stories. Yes, parents do abuse their kids. Parents do hurt their kids unneedlessly. They get so angry because the baby's crying, they'll take the child's head and bang it against the wall. or there's some horrendous things that they do. Now, I should talk to you about what CPS is looking for. That's really important to know this. They're looking for either abuse or neglect. Abuse or neglect. And with abuse, it's further subsided into a physical abuse, into uh, see here, physical abuse, and then there is the domestic abuse. What I mean by that is the um, domestic towards the children. Could be excess corporate punishment. It could be arguing. Do you know that you're not allowed? It's against the law to argue in front of your kids. You're not allowed to supposed to argue in front of your kids. So if we have an argument, you need to take it away from your kids. You need to either go out for a walk and talk peacefully or do a timeout. A timeout is the best way to diffuse something. They use timeouts all the time on the football field. The timeout for players to cool down or calm down or to maybe talk about different strategies. So if you are arguing with your spouse or your partner, or if you're arguing at work with coworkers like that, if it's not going anywhere, you need to stop the argument and then do a timeout, come back later and talk about it. It's important that you learn to use that self-control. And after a while, it does work. Timeouts do work, and coming back together and talking about things. Um, Sometimes when they come back, they forget what they're arguing about. Sometimes it's so silly and trivial. But anyway, you need to show respect. These CPS workers will not show you respect. They're not very nice, and they're very devious. I mean, uh, foster care has not been very successfully done because I've heard of cases. There's one child that age 3 was put in foster care, never got out of foster care till they're 18. Then when they got out, they didn't have really all the skills and so forth. And then um, they tried to, hold on a second, please. Hold on a second, please. Everything like that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm back again. I'm sorry for the interruption. It's just sometimes there's conflicts and noise, and I'm doing this show coming from my heart, really. Um, any, um, it is a lot of emotional time and a lot of hard time when you deal with this. My matter went from 2015 to 2017, and then after 2017, our children returned. We only got back 2 of the 3. The third one was talked into. She was alienated from us as parents, and she was talked into being adopted. She thought it better to be adopted than be returned to us because one of the things she expressed was a lack of money or funds. She was a girl living in a Barbie world, a Barbie girl living in a Barbie world, and she had a high expectations. And but I know she loves us as parents. But when she divorced us, it really hurt. Her birth certificate was sealed, and she also divorced her brothers and sisters, and she also divorced her grandparents. So that all being said, it's a miserable experience when your child is alienated and then it's stolen by CPS. And she got money up until she was 18. She didn't get the money. Who got the money was the foster care people and the social workers of CPS. It's a $1 billion business. And so far, I've not heard any good cases yet about CPS from anybody. And anybody out there listening right now, if you are listening, I think it's really important that um, you call in and tell me a good story. I want to hear a good story. I don't want to hear the negative stories or the bad stories. Now, um, another thing I want to mention again is that you really need, I can't stress enough that you need an attorney. And what I mean by attorney is that you need somebody that can help you navigate and negotiate in your behalf of getting your children returned, and that knows the laws. Family law dependency court is very complex, and only an attorney that has a strong background in CPS matters. And I'd like you to recommend our attorney here, Vincent W. Davis. He has uh, been a professional attorney for a long time, and his expertise is fighting CPS and getting your children back. He has fought extensively um, against CPS. He's actually done civil lawsuits and won. So that's a good. He's also a trial attorney, so he knows how to do trials. So he's familiar with the court systems. He knows he's probably the number one attorney in the United States, and so he's available at our office. If you call in 888-888-6582, it's on the screen there, and say that Bob Pace sent you and that you want to schedule a time to see him because he's offering a 30-minute to a 1 hour consultation to discuss strategies about CPS. And he will get back to you. If somebody that have called and scheduled and didn't show, my apologies. Please call in again and reschedule those times because I have heard from people, saying that they wanted to see him. So um, that's really important. You should call in. Also, if you want to be a guest speaker on the show, please call in 888-888-6582. That's my office, and Bob Pace sent you, and pick out a date and a time that you want to speak on. Right now, we're taking calls at 626-698-0990. That's my office phone, and it's available to talk to right now during the show time. There's approximately about 30 minutes left of the show, and so if you call in, I'll put you on the show right away. Also, if you have something that you want to text and you don't want to talk, then put your name in, and then put the state you're from. Make sure it's not a derogatory name, and that if you don't want to use your real name, you can use the alias name. Also, you want to put the state you're calling from, so I get a general idea of where you are located. And then I want you to describe either the question you have regarding CPS or your child custody battle or family reunification. I'll try to help you best as I can through my experience. There's a lot of things that goes on in the courtroom. After the allegations are made, they're investigated. By law, they have to be investigated, and they'll either be dropped or they'll continue to call you, come out to your home, try to see you, try to do all kinds of things. After they do that, then if it's extreme enough, they're going to take your children away that day. Now, extreme enough means I talked about abuse, and I did not talk about child neglect, which is the other area. Also, before I forget abuse, there's the sexual abuse too. That's where there's gratification by the parents, or there's prostitution by the parents. They either sell pictures of their children or actually put their children into prostitution. It's sad to say that parents do that. And we're in one of the worst areas to live in where I'm at, the number one spot for child abductions. Not because CPS is taking our children, but for slavery. They're taking our children, putting them overseas into prostitutions, into slavery in homes as quick as the next day. There's so many times. There was one time, there was a show depicting now these children were talked in to do modeling, and their parents would get paid a certain amount of money. They trusted it with these strange modeling crew. The children were brought at the first session. The parents are there. They watched it. And the next session, they're brought. Then when the parents came back to pick them up that day, they were gone. They were kidnapped on the bus and taken away into slave camps, into sex camps. And it was terrible. It was a terrible experience there. So I'm trying to tell you out there, it is important that we have social services. We do need help in the ways of food and medical, and the ways of helping to get work and housing and so forth. We do need help to protect our children. That is a necessity. But we need to do something to clean it up. You know, they're watching you abusing your children through physical, sexual, or domestic, and that means arguing in front of your kids. Now, neglect can be whether not fed properly, not clothed properly, are they locked up in their room needlessly. Excessive corporate punishment would be physical abuse. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for those two areas. And if it's extreme, that's the part they will dupe to make it extreme. Because if extreme, they take away your children. And the first thing they do with your child when they take them away that day is they put them into a shelter. Well, the shelter that my kids were put into didn't protect them. That shelter is right next to dependency court, right next to the prison in there in the county that we are in, and that prison next to the shelter and so forth, you had prisoners, hardened criminals, right next to could get your children, and the children had a play area outside, but it was bee infested. They had beehives up there that could sting your children. Then they weren't well clean there. They're overcrowded. And also the cultures. There's a mixture of cultures, diversity of cultures, and it hurts a child. It's really hard when children are stripped from their family. Like this one mom was talking about her 5-year-old son. He supposedly had a mental issue. What had happened is that this parent had lost her mom, and she was a single mom raising 2 boys, and she didn't have a boyfriend or partner. She had 2 separate men that got her pregnant, and she didn't believe in abortion. And she didn't give the children for adoption. She thought she could raise them. And she, with one of the boys, who was an older boy, was able to stay at his mom, but the other boy was taken from her because when she lost her mom, she went into mental anguish. And because she was in mental anguish, they took her younger child from her and was trying to take away her educational and medical rights. Now, you as parents have to understand, do not give up your medical rights. Do not give up your education rights. You as parents are allowed to tell what schools the child goes to and what medical doctors they see, what medical treatments they get there. But this mother was terrible because they were suddenly diagnosed her as mentally disordered and not able to take care of her child. And this wasn't coming from a professional that knew anything about mental disorder. This is from a social worker. Since when are social workers and judges mental workers? Mental health workers. I mean, it'd be like a garage mechanic do open heart surgery on you. Would you like to have a garage mechanic that knows how to repair cars suddenly take your heart out, put your new heart in? No, you need a professional. And so it can get really bad, the abuse, the neglect, and everything on that. I've I've heard some really horrific stories, and I'm not trying to say we need to get rid of CPS or get rid of social services. We need to have it more transparent. We need to have more accountability. We need judges, and this being election year, we need to have judges elected in our dependency courts that are family law attorneys, people that have backgrounds and know how to put a family back together, that knows about the trauma that child is being separated from their families. We're born in this world without a manual of how to raise a child, so we do our best. And maybe what may work may not work for other parents, but we may have hiccups. We may do drugs. It's like people think marijuana is safe now. No, you can't have any drugs around a child that's under 18. If you do, CPS will get involved. It's against the law. You can't have drug paraphernalia around. One homeless person had lost their home, and they were evicting them, and the sheriffs were bagging all their stuff, and the sheriffs knew some pot pipes or some pipes they used to smoke pot, and they went ahead and called family service, and they lost their children. You just really, there's a lot of things you cannot do and so forth. So you as the parents, you can't be alcoholics. You can't have excessive alcohol and so forth. And you have to be able to um, um, work with your family and take care of the responsible adults. It's hard to know everything. You're not going to know everything as it comes out. So far, we have nobody that wants to call in. I know it's late tonight, and I apologize for the late start on the show there. but it was a matter beyond my control. Um, so uh, I am here. I'm trying to think what other topics I've talked about the ICWA. Oh, there's a form that someone asked me the other day. What is a 388? Well, a 388 is a petition that is typically brought to request a hearing. That means you're going to be before the judge to modify, change, or set aside a previous court order. You may have a court order in place, and you may have um, uh, some circumstances that have changed, or you have new evidence, and you may want to set the previous court order aside to terminate juvenile court's jurisdiction. And that could be because there's a changed circumstances or new evidence. So you file this petition 388. Well, you're not going to find that unless you're an attorney with the background or you know about it. There's a lot of those kinds of different forms. The 388. There's all these different things that can happen to you. After you have your children taken away that first day and put into a shelter, what's going to happen to you next is that you're going to have a planning meeting with the Child Protection Services. That is a meeting where the children are going to be. Are they continue in the shelter? Are they going to go to a group home? Are they going to go to a foster care? Or they're going to stay with a family member? And I say it's best to try to stay with a family member, an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, somebody who's over 18 that can watch your kids and care for them, get them to school, and take care of them. And so you have that meeting. Again, all these meetings you have with social services, you don't have a meeting usually together with your kids. And that's really sad because the kids don't know what's going on. They are alienated from their parents because social workers don't want to be honest and tell what they're trying to do. And they think what's going to trauma the kids. The kids already know something's wrong. The kids are already involved. So it's not going to traumatize me further. The kids want to be a part of it. They want to express their fears and concerns. So we should have once a week a meeting, and they don't do this, but they should have once a week a meeting where the parents and the attorneys and the counselors and the therapists and the social workers are all together talking and discussing intelligent things. And if it gets out of hand, you do a timeout and you come back and reconvene. But it should be where the kids see what's going on because our kids didn't know what was happening. They thought we had abandoned them. There were no communication that their parents were taking parent courses, trying to improve the situations that CPS thought was necessary. But the kids were never explained that. They were taught to lose love for their parents, basically. They were taught to be alienated from their parents. That's a bad thing that CPS did. It's a bad thing that Boys Town, that was doing the group home, was doing. And I don't know, the person they had watching their kids in the group home had too many kids himself to take care of 6 other kids in the group home. How can a mother and a father take care of a group home when she's pregnant, they have another child, and then they got 6 other children of various ages from all different families, So, it's crazy. Instead of CPS protect our children, they endanger our children. They endanger our children with prisoners. They endanger our children with bees. They endanger our children, even lack of food. My son was scolded because he drank too much orange juice. My son likes orange juice, but he was scolded. In foster care, he was cuffed, in the back of the head because he took communion of all crazy things from the priest. And they said, you can take it from the layperson. You don't have to take it from the priest. And he insisted he wanted to take it from the priest. That's his prerogative. That's his choice. That's his choice. So with that being said, it's a sad state of affairs that our children are going through. It's also monitor visits. Our visits where the kids were getting less and less. My wife started out seeing our daughter. I never saw my daughter once, even supervised. But my wife saw her, but she was getting less and less. And every time she saw her, my wife would say something that wasn't bad or anything, and CPS would blow it up and make limited visitations with her. It was so hard on my wife. It's wrong. And she is really, we're both angry about CPS. And if I sound angry, I'm sorry, but I have every right to do so. They are a horrible thing to destroy a family that was functional, that needed some help with things that would have been a lot better than what they tried to do. Um, so it's about 10 minutes left of the show, and we're getting on the home stretch here. So I've talked about the planning meeting where the kids go, and at first we had them with our my wife's sister and her husband, but they only lasted a couple months. They couldn't take care of her kids, and it's so funny is a lot of people think it's easy taking care of kids. It's a lot of work. You have three kids, three different schools: elementary, middle school, and high school, and you have different interests. You have soccer. Well, they all played soccer, but they had Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Then they had open house, and then meetings with the teachers. And it's hard because to go from middle school to a high school to elementary school, there's distance and driving and stuff, and a lot of them were the same night. But we went to all of them. We were very active parents. When you sat in the classroom with the teacher during open house or back to school night or meeting with the teacher, you can see there was not very many parents actively, but we're actively involved with all our kids. We loved our kids. We want to interact with our kids, and we're proud of what our kids have accomplished through the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the soccer, and then through high school. Um, my son was in private school, wanted to be a robotic engineer, and he went through high school with great honors, got good grades. The robotic team. He played. He played a sport too. He played golf, and it's really great. My youngest son is in his senior year at high school, but he played a sport, football, and that football team in his time of being on the team for 3 years, they won the national championships twice. They won the national championships, the best high school. They've been honored in Congress. Their coach has been honored in Congress, a special commendation. Their coach has been awarded and inducted Hall of Fame. The players, one of them was even going to play in the Super Bowl. So, he was on a team that was the best of the best, meaning that any player that plays on a team could be a starter at any college and so forth. So, that being said, I'm really proud of him. He's also does A's and B's. All our kids did A's and B's. There was no things about that. The hiccups that we had as parents were exaggerated, and they were looking for trouble. They wanted to make this family pay. It's like revenge because why? The parents, my wife's side of the family, had told horrific ideas that their daughter was not a good mother. Now, having meals for kids, doing the clothes, washing the house, taking care of the house, and all that stuff takes time. Doing their homework, helping with their homework. It takes time. Activities. We would go traveling. We go all over the United States and went to other countries. So we tried to share that with the family. When we do an activity, it was a family activity. We hardly went on dates, my wife and I. We hardly went alone without our kids. We go to Disneyland all the time. We go to movies all the time. We did things together as a family would, and it was really, I don't regret it. I cherish those moments. And I'll never forget when they were growing up and they're real young, and I come home from work, working 60 hours a week, and they would line up to sit there and hug me. They got to the point where they got kind of big, and it was hard to lift them up. But I was still lifting up, and it was so great to see them because they were excited. Our two dogs used to howl when I came home. They're excited, and so we all were excited. And my side, my mom and dad were good people, invited them up and so forth, and they came to the wedding. They tried to be a part of our family. And, as I say, our home was sadly lost. It was one of the things, where you need money with the attorney. And I'm speaking again about an attorney. And I cannot emphasize how important an attorney is, a paid attorney. Now, if you're hard pressed for money, which most of you are, myself included, and by the way, I did find work, but then I recently laid off at the age of 73. And they said, we have no more work to give you. Nothing wrong with the work you're doing. You're great. But we have no more work to give you. So here I am looking for work again at age 74, and people don't want to. I was talking to one person about getting a job as a speaker talking to other people about insurances. And the guy that's telling me, he says, "Well, Bob, I really got to tell you, they're looking for young people." So I don't know. Our president of the United States is in his 80s, and the other politicians in Congress in the 80s. What is wrong with older people working? It's sad that we have to, but have enough money in retirement. If I had it all at once, I could make something out of it. But they don't give it to you. They give you in small dribbles. How are you going to invest it? I mean, I have 59 years of work at Social Security. That's over $3 million of money that's been put away with Social Security. Now, if you're giving that money all at once, you can invest it and that money could make money. But they don't. They dribble it to you. And then social services behind Social Security, meaning that their income level hasn't changed, but social services, Social Security, raised the amount they're giving me, so it put me out of the league for food stamps for Medicare, the health insurance. So right away, I'm stuck with that. And right now, immigration is taxing the system, and they have so many people to take care of. But why not take care of the people in the United States? There are a lot of homeless people that need help. There's a lot of us. And so we need to change rules. We need to have these people be taken care of. And we need to go out and vote and exercise our rights to vote. That's the only way we can make changes. And we need to have them accountability and have them audited and so forth. Right now, government's not to be trusted. That is the sad word, but it's true. Our police are really important to have, but they've been so damaged by all the misled and the things about them. They're not paid enough. School teachers and policemen and firemen are underpaid. There's no question about that. Social workers too. But they are paid in CPS, though, I found out. They get bonuses so they can buy their Gucci purses and their BMW cars. Our social worker, every time I saw her, had something new to say that she was wearing. She said, "See my new eyelashes, see my this and that." It's funny. It's really funny is that here we are, a 22-year-old telling us, and I was 65 and my wife is 15 years younger, telling us how to be parents. And we have a 22-year-old. That is so hard to take the credibility. Or you have a public defender that's 22 years old, just got his bar exam. He doesn't know either. So, the social workers should be put on a mentor program. They should serve with another senior social worker for 10 years before they even talk about working with families. That's a change. Get the correct judges. Also, I think anybody that does the allegation should write it down and sign the name. I think if you write it down or sign the name, it's different and it will come in a lot more real when it comes in there. People don't like to sign the name to anything if it's not true because they can be held accountable for their actions. The other thing I wanted to say is that after you settle where your kids are, there's going to be their planning meeting, and you're going to determine what you're going to do for your case plan. And that is done in the court where they decide what you have to do and how many months. There's 6 months. There's different time periods and so forth. But I'm telling you from experience, it took me 3 years of hell to get our two boys back. And it took all my money. My home was gone. It took all my retirement money, all my family inheritance money, and all of my house money to fight to get my two boys back. But it's worth every dime. I don't regret it. It's in the past. I will find a job again. I will work again. And one of the things I'm happy to say that I still feel young. I'm still healthy. I still want to take care of my family. So it's close to my time up right now. Please call into 888-888-6582 to either schedule a time to talk on the show or set up a time to talk to Vincent W. Davis for your consultation for 30 minutes up to an hour about the strategies of how to get your children back and how to fight CPS. Again, I'm on twice a day, 10 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. So please tune in and bring your friends. And I also like you to be a guest on the show. I'm looking more happy about to do that. So I want the new year to be very successful and much happiness. Again, thank you for listening to me, and God bless you all. This is Bob Pace signing out.